Everybody, my name is Wayne Scott. I'm the Chief of Police here for the City of Greensboro. I want to start off by saying thank you all for being making yourselves available. I apologize for the length of time we had to keep you waiting. I'm sure many of you were just upstairs for our special council meeting and our video release, and obviously that's what we're here to talk about. The actual videos themselves are being placed to be accessible via the internet and should be in short order. In ways of an opening statement for me, I really want to emphasize the fact that, as I said initially, the police department, myself, the city as a whole, we are very unhappy with what's contained in that video. And I expressed that to the Yours family. I'm proud of the fact that our processes worked, that we were able to come to the right conclusion. However, as it's been pointed out, and I have said early on, we need to do some improvement, particularly around our timelines. The complexity related to reviewing body-worn camera is probably one of the most complex things in law enforcement. And because we were fortunate enough to begin the process early, however early that can be in the last couple of years, we're one of the leading departments in learning how to process that and put that into our internal investigation system. And so we're still learning, and we're still finding the best steps to do that in. It was extremely helpful in this case. I believe anyone who views the video would agree with that. But there is the complexity of investigations which require more than just the body cam. So I know that you have a lot of questions. I'll ask if we'll do them one by one. And who's first?
Why were Officer Cole and Officer Jackson called to that neighborhood in the first place?
It was a report of a suspicious person which appeared to be to the caller trying to break into that house. The individual was reported to be using a shovel to try to pry up a door.
And what action, if any, will be taken against Officer Jackson, and why none so far?
Officer Jackson is still in the administrative process, and I can't really discuss that because of personnel issues at this point. We're still evaluating the totality of her involvement in the call.
From looking at the video, though, is there anything about her behavior that troubles you?
Again, that would be something outside my ability to speak about because of her personnel concerns.
Has she been in that administrative process since when has that been the case?
Well, so that's a great question. Let me give you a second to talk about that. We had reported to us by the officers themselves, they self-report a use of physical force. So as we discussed the timeline very much upstairs, that's something that every single use of force is investigated, both by our chain of command and then reviewed by the command staff. So that has really been taking place since the beginning. Now, because of the criminal investigation I ordered in the middle, it has elongated our timeline some, related to some of the other particulars of the investigation. But anytime we have a use of force that's investigated and it's reviewed by a chain of command, if it signals a problem, then it's re-investigated or even further investigated by our Department of Professional Standards. And then, of course, criminal investigation is an entirely different investigation because of the way laws are set up in this state.
So administrative process, does that mean that she's on administrative duty, or is she on the field?
She is not on suspended duty or anything at this point.
So she's still in the field?
She is.
Gotcha.
What directives do you send downstream to the officers in the field regarding this video, your feelings about it, and what the standard of conduct should be in the field?
Boy, that's a big question. I plan on addressing my department as a whole via email sometime this evening. I think there's multiple messages that I need to get out. One, and probably the utmost, is where I feel with it, the majority of folks I've talked to about it, that we're not proud of what we see on that video, but we still have to go out and do our job. I think I have to find a way, I might have to find the words that let our folks know that our community still supports us, because I believe that, and that we're doing the right thing. We do the right thing for the right reason. That's one of our essential behaviors at the Greensboro Police Department. And although there will be people in the community from time to time that will probably ask hard questions, they should be prepared, they being our rank and file. And so I will encourage them. I will let them know that ultimately we're still doing the right thing and we're still serving our public.
Any word to the community, to the public that might see this and question within themselves whether or not the officers that are on the street are working in their best interest?
Well, and that's a big question as well. You know, the bottom line is, hi, welcome, this is what we believe to be an isolated incident. We answer in excess of 280,000 calls every year. We have an extremely high satisfaction rating with our public, but we make mistakes. And as I said to the council as a whole, you know, there are parts of the way that this unfolded and worked that please me, that our systems worked and we were able to find our issues. But there are things that we need to continue to work on. And so, like any large organization, policing is very difficult, and we want to be as good as we can at what we can do. And so I asked our community to remember that and remember that we're growing. Over the last 2 years, we've made some significant policy changes in this organization that have been quite leading for police departments, from our bias-based training to procedural justice to being able to have the questions to ask those hard questions and have those conversations. You know, I actually, as the chief of police, asked our council, or asked our manager to disclose this video to our council, which it in itself is a little unusual in law enforcement today. So my folks know that. They know that we are leading edge in that area, but we never stop getting better.
Is it frustrating to know that this video existed for about a month, the incident happened for about a month before you saw it?
Well, yes, to some degree it is. But I will say there are a number of other things. As I was explaining to council, our review process really looks at individual steps before it gets to the captain. My officers work a 4-on and 4-off rotation, so in actuality they only work about 16 days a month. There are a lot of logistic things that happen, and you got to remember the majority of our use of force investigations are very mundane. It was very clear what happened. So that process took a while. It did not exceed the limits of our requirements, so therefore I'm looking at, do we need to tighten those parameters? But ultimately, it would be great if I knew about it the next day and we took the quickest action possible. That's probably not realistic, but as I mentioned upstairs, I'm having my staff explore at least a 48-hour review of video. One of the things that we've been able to achieve, we're buying new body cams, so we'll be 1-for-1 by the end of the year. And I do believe that the greatest majority of any of our administrative investigations will at least have some documentation. So we're looking at how can we do a first 48 look to at least maybe put us in a perspective of what do we need to do, what do we need to concentrate on. So again, it's a growing process for us.
Chief, Officer W.F. Sizemore is listed as the arresting officer on the charging documents in this case, and from what I've seen, and Officer Jackson's listed as a witness, but I didn't see Officer Cole's name on there. I'm just curious about Officer Sizemore's role in this and why Officer Cole might not have been listed.
In complete transparency, I really don't know. I can get back to you with that answer.
Okay.
Oftentimes when there is multiple officers at a scene, as you watch the video, you can see that the officers actually are on their radios, are asking for help, that kind of thing. Multiple officers get there, they divide up the workload, and I assume that would probably have something to do with it.
So there were eventually more officers at the scene after?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And one of the speakers said today that the only reason this came out to the general public is because of a leak within the department. Can you confirm that and talk a little more about that?
I heard the same statement you did. I will tell you that, I made my notifications as I normally do. We have a lot of personnel action that we don't bring forward to our council. They're giving us direction that we need to start looking at that differently. But the reason I crafted the letter and asked the manager to disclose it was actually phone calls from some people that I know in the community, people specifically on my Faith Advisory Council, people that we've built a level of trust in the last year and a half, that when they brought it to my attention that there were questions, that I believe them. And we wanted to be as clear as we could and not let it fester or create a problem long term.
And why should people in Greensboro feel confident in the police department now? You were in there, we were all in there, we heard a lot of people saying this was a total failure, that Officer Cole was even still an officer after the first incident. So why can they be assured this won't happen again?
Well, they can be assured that we have systems in place that we will make corrective action if something happens. I wouldn't dare as a chief, be able to tell anyone that this kind of thing never happens. We have 900 plus employees, over 680 sworn police officers at any given day, interacting just dozens and dozens of calls and interactions. But what they can be assured of is that we take this very serious. That as the chief, I take this serious, and we take our corrective action very serious. It is important to us how our community perceives us, and we do everything we can to build that trust in our community. It is unfortunate that incidents like this occur, but I would ask our community to look at us as a totality. The things this police department has been willing to do, the things that we try to do proactively. And at the end of the day, I think they'll see it's a good organization, and the vast majority of people out here wearing this uniform care a lot about this community.
Chief, I know that Officer Cole was suspended with pay. When can you suspend someone without pay?
That's a good question, and it came up upstairs quite a bit. We moved to a policy several years ago where we do not suspend without pay unless it is a punitive action. That would be as a finding of discipline. That was a recommendation of our HR department because of liability. Let's say if we elect to suspend someone without pay and then there's no charges sustained, then the city is forced to make them whole again. Equally, being police officers, and this gets a little complicated, a police officer is the only job in the world that requires you by law to tell the truth when you're on an internal investigation. Now you have the same right as everyone else when it comes to a criminal investigation. You have a right to remain silent. But a police officer, because of current laws in this country, cannot remain silent in an investigation. So I asked the city attorney this question, and we're going to research it. I'm really not sure if we don't have to continue to create some kind of financial in respect to that in order to make sure that we don't violate that, because we ask people to come back and they're at our beck and call for an investigation internally.
Do you have an estimate of when the investigation related to Officer Jackson will be completed?
I can tell you that I hope it is done within the next 2 weeks. I think it'll be done earlier than that, but just I don't want to tell you sometime under promise.
And I know you said Officer Cole is not immune from any action against him yet, that the investigation is still ongoing in terms of, any repercussions he may face. Can you talk about that and how that's still going on, what might happen to him?
So Officer Cole?
Yes.
Officer Cole has resigned. He is no longer going to have anything to do with our internal investigation. That case was adjudicated, and the charges remain in his personnel record.
So there's nothing else you all can do?
To Officer Cole? No. The investigation was finished, and the charges were sustained that I read upstairs. And quite honestly, there is nothing we can do past that. As you know, by resolution, the council has asked us to connect with the district attorney's office to reevaluate the case for charges, and obviously I'll follow that directive. Is that it?
Yeah, did Mr. Yorst or anyone, his lawyer, maybe you can answer that, but was a complaint filed in this case, and what was the date of that? Just curious, because people were discussing the timeline so much upstairs.
Mr. Yorst, or someone identifying himself to be Mr. Yorst, called us on the 20th, July 20th, contacted professional standards. At that point, the use of force was still being investigated by the chain of command. So they relayed that information to the chain of command, because obviously at that point we weren't going to run 2 investigations. Subsequent to that, and after the August 9th and 10th, when I made my decisions, Criminal Investigations Division reached out to him on multiple occasions. They made an appointment. He missed an appointment. There was a problem with his cell phone. We were able to interview his mother at one point, and then on the internal affairs side, once that investigation got recranked up, the same thing. There was some attempted contacts, but we weren't able to actually pull it all together until after the public discussion at council. He reached to us.
Just a quick protocol question. Did Officer Jackson agree to the release of her body camera video?
She did not.
But you all were able to do it anyway?
So I had on the date of our last council meeting, I believe it's the 20th, is that right? I had sent a memo to the manager, but putting in there that I had heard these things in our community, and that I felt it was in the best interest of the department to disclose it to council. By our current policy, council would then have to work with the manager and decide whether or not by resolution they want to show it. I did so. I did a case update. Prior to that closed session, I had members of staff reach out to Officer Jackson and ask her if she would object to it, and she did. And so we notified council of that. Council elected to move forward under their authority regardless.
And Officer Cole, you did not need his approval since he's no longer with the department? Is that how that works?
He was actually the focus of the investigation, is really why I didn't. I was asking on his behalf.
Did he give permission?
No.
Officer Jackson, according to the playback tape, she said that the gentleman assaulted her, but we never did see where he assaulted her in the tape.
Mhm.
Would she be held accountable if she caught lying?
Her statements will obviously be reviewed, but I can't get into any more detail with that because that is an ongoing personnel investigation.
And well, I guess kind of related to that, my understanding is that all the charges against Mr. Yorst are dropped, including the one of assault on
You are correct.
Officer Jackson.
You are correct.
What about the failure to appear charges?
The initial legal papers, those,
On the police report there, I think there are 2 failure to appear charges against Mr. Yorst.
yeah, there, subsequent to their arrest, he had some outstanding legal papers on him that were served.
But those aren't dismissed.
No. Does that conclude? Okay. Again, we will be working to get those video clips available to you as quickly as possible. Do you want to add anything to that?
They should already be up on our FTP site. I sent those instructions out. If you need them, please contact me. And then we will preview the meeting on YouTube. The actual meeting is probably already on the clerk's pages or on the city's website. There's a link.
Okay.
So there's several avenues that you can get the video.
And is that Mr. Yorst, his attorney? He just left?
The gentleman who left, yes.
Does he want to speak, or can he give comment? No.
Given the fact he left, I would say no.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.